Socrates said something interesting that I think kind of summarizes this whole video pretty much. He said, "There's only one good, knowledge, and one evil, ignorance." And I think there's definitely truth in that. What I want to focus on, however, is that we've come to a point as individuals and as a society where we kind of forgot about it. You know, we are stuck in this illusion that we know everything, and I think this is kind of hurting us for multiple reasons. The thing is, the extent to which we got caught up in our knowledge or in our illusion of knowing it all has brought us to a place where we barely even listen anymore. And this can be justified by the fact that media is so present these days. Essentially what that means is that we rely on external secondary resources way more. And because of that, it has kind of become a competition, you know? We talk to our peers in a way to compare our knowledge, and almost always we try to convince others that we are right, that whatever we believe in or whatever we have acquired is somehow more valuable or reliable than whatever someone else has. However, as humans, that's really not the way that we have learned to survive. From the beginning of time, our main source of knowledge has been our social lives. You know, we would learn about things from our friends, from our families, from our communities. And most of it would come through conversations, through talking, and through genuinely believing and opening ourselves up to the information that we receive. Now, with technology on the rise and media being ever so present and our main source of news, we kind of use that to conclude that our peers somehow know less, and that somehow what we know as individuals and what others know as individuals is of less importance than whatever we can acquire through media or the official resources that we now have easy access to. So essentially we reach the point where we believe that listening to others is pointless. And I think that that is completely wrong, first of all, but also a very negative way of looking at the world, because essentially what that does to us is it blocks us from learning more. We essentially forget that every human being has something valuable to say, and that it only comes down to how well we listen. No matter how incredible social media and YouTube and the internet has become, and no matter how valuable the information we obtain from that is, nothing really beats stories of first-hand experiences. There's something that I've learned at school, and that is, in any academical research, you always need a primary source of information and a secondary source of information. And essentially media is a secondary source. Even if you can hear first-hand experiences, it stays as a retold thing. And the stories and information that we can acquire from the actual people in our lives are as primary sources of information. And I am not trying to comment on the value of the information you can receive from one source versus another, but rather I just want to highlight the importance of both. I believe that there's something about listening to a story told by the person who has experienced it that includes you in the actions. And I think we've all realized that in our lives, because as much as it's interesting to hear about events going on the other side of the world, we kind of are always excited when say your friend comes from a vacation and tells you about their experience in that context. So we hear, let's say, about protests in France, and that's all interesting and scary at the same time, and we listen to it with the step back that essentially media provides us. But when we have someone come from France and tell us about their experience in Paris with the protests, it's kind of different because we kind of get to experience that with them, if that makes sense. The emotional context in any first-hand story is essentially what we as humans kind of live for. And there's no reason for us to cut that off just because our scope of information has kind of shifted and now we know more. Yes, it's true that sometimes it is more objective to seek information from reliable sources, but it's also interesting to hear others. And it is our ignorance that blocks us from that. Our illusion of, but I know, or I know better, when that's not really what social interactions are about. It's not about who knows the ultimate truth, it's about the different experiences that we should share as humans and that we have been sharing over the century. What's interesting is that Yuval Noah Harari kind of said the same thing. He says, "The greatest scientific discovery was the discovery of ignorance. Once humans realized how little they knew about the world, they suddenly had very good reason to seek new knowledge, which opened up the scientific road to progress." And I think that can be applied to way more than just our species and science. I think that if we didn't try to approach knowledge as a competition or feel threatened by the fact that someone might know something more, we would essentially open ourselves up to so much more information, whether reliable or not, whether useful or not. There's no reason to hide away from new things, new perspectives, new stories, because of the fact that they might not be as objective. And I think my conclusion was that I want to take a day out of my life and just listen to everyone in my life as if I know nothing at all. And I kind of encourage you to do the same, because I feel like the new insights and perspectives that we might accidentally come across in this little experiment could end up changing our lives. And that's something powerful that I think I haven't been paying enough attention to. From the moment we try hard enough to listen, we can come across great things. And I don't see a reason for us to avoid that. So let's try not to. Thank you.